Hi, my name is Keith Erickson. I'm 47 years of age. I'm a primary handler here in the new Life K9 dog program at Pleasant Valley State Prison. And today I'm going to share a little bit with you about my life story, about who I was prior to prison, who I am today in the dog program, and a little bit about Rychard Murphy, who's also a handler here in the Pleasant Valley State Prison dog program. I guess the first thing I want to talk about is who I was before prison. I've spent most of my life incarcerated since the age of 12, 13 years old in the juvenile system, the California Youth Authority system. I was in the state prison at the age of 18. Right away I got involved in gangs, the gang subculture, the politics, and I just gravitated toward all the negative things here while incarcerated. Over the years, I just got worse in the criminality, the gangs. I don't think I spent more than maybe 3 to 6 months out in the streets in the last probably 25 to 30 years. In 1993, I came back for first-degree murder, where I was arrested with my mother for shooting and killing her abusive boyfriend. And since then, I'd accumulated 4 additional life sentences while incarcerated for assaults on other inmates. I guess for the past 20 years, I didn't really know who I was. Even when I decided to walk away from the gangs and the lifestyle that I was living here in prison, I still teetered on the verge of doing things that were, anything but flying straight. Even when I did walk away from the gangs, I still got involved in violence. I acted up here in prison. It wasn't until probably 10 years ago before I finally got involved in self-help groups. And probably Kern Valley, where me and you were at Kern Valley together. We were roommates, cellies at the time. And I think I worked in education, and the biggest thing for me was starting to get into my college education. Was like seeing my potential as getting into school and seeing what I was capable of. I think that was the turning point for me, where I wanted to do good, and I just got tired of my life, and I started feeling ashamed of things that I had done. And my journey up to that point was checkered. It was just checkered really bad with stuff that, today I can look back on it and say that I'm definitely ashamed of everything that I had done. Coming here to Pleasant Valley State Prison 2 years ago was probably the best thing for me. Right away I came to the yard. I knew that I wanted to do positive programs. So when they started talking about the new Life K9 program coming here to Pleasant Valley, I'll be honest with you, a lot of us were excited just for the fact that we wanted a dog. It had been 28 years since I'd even touched a dog. So for me, the biggest deal was, oh, I get to have a puppy, I get to have a dog, I want to play with a puppy. So when they showed up here, Delta, I got Delta when he was a little boy, little puppy, 8 weeks old, and right away I gravitated towards him and he gravitated towards me. And I realized the thing that I've been missing all these years through my self-help and rehabilitation was that getting reconnected to humanity again, because we're responsible for another life. It may not be a human life, but it's just like it's another creature. It's just like it's like having a kid. It's like raising a son. So I can honestly say today that I'm in a better place because of the program.
My name's Rychard Murphy. I'm 35. I've been in prison since I was 18. I originally came to prison for armed robbery. I got involved in prison gangs when I first got here. I was young and impressionable, and I became a skinhead. I ended up committing 2 assaults on a prisoner with a weapon when I was 21. I caught 20 more years in prison, and that was around the time that I actually had my wake up. It didn't actually click until I got to 20 years, which is around when I was 27. I went back and forth to court for about 5 years, 6 years, around there. And I just realized that with the things I was fighting for, it wasn't worth it. It took 20 years to wake me up. Initially when I came over, I wasn't totally prepared to change. I'd made the right steps, but I was still using drugs and messing around. I was getting in fights still. I seen where I needed to go. I just didn't know how to get there. When that really started happening for me is when I gave my life to God, and I started checking my value system and the things that I cared about, and I realized that, you know, the life I was living wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go, you know, and I started changing. And you mentioned when we were Stellies, I ended up changing not that long after that, after we ended up moving out. So when I came to PVSP, and they said they were bringing the dog program here, and like you said initially, when I heard about it, I wanted a dog. That was all I cared about was having a dog. I've been in prison for 16 years, and we all wanted a dog. But we did the Operation Gratitude. When we did Operation Gratitude, I was already in the dog program. And I met, do you remember the officer's name? That was?
Nolan, Pat Nolan.
No, the one that actually was a recipient.
Oh, Greg Gallo.
Greg.
Greg Gallo
Right.
and Eddie.
So I have law enforcement in my family. I have military. I have a CO. That's my aunt. So I have a lot of respect for law enforcement, and the impact that the dog had on Greg was, you know, it really impacted me, and it opened my eyes that it's not just, yes, I have a dog, you know, that's cool, but it impacted me that it's going to help somebody else. I mean, because he told a story and he wasn't even able to leave his house.
Yeah.
And then he said he got his dog and his whole life changed. And it was like, you know, that's pretty cool that I'm going to be a part of that for somebody else. You know, and it's going to hurt when these dogs leave. In 2 years, you know, that we've had them, and they're going to leave, but it's going to be for a good cause. And I'm glad to be a part of it.
I can say that I've changed a lot since the program too when I think about it. I think the biggest thing for me is having more patience with myself. You know, going through the process of the dogs, learning about what we're, you know, our roles and our responsibilities for the dogs. You know, I know the end of it is the fact that we're helping save somebody's life and help them reintegrate back out into society and do things that they can't do for themselves. But at the same time, it's while we're teaching these dogs, you know, things, you know, that are important, how to function in the world and how to see the world in a positive way. I guess for me, I realized that I'm starting to have more patience with, not just in the dogs, but with other people that I interact with. When I call home, I'll talk to my wife, and I just start communicating with her better. I'm a better listener. I think it's also giving me a sense of re-tapping back into humanity, where my role in his life it actually gives me a place in the world, despite the fact that I'm serving 5 consecutive life sentences in prison. I know that a part of me is going out there, and it's, you know, somebody said it before in another program at CMC. They said the world's getting the best part of them, and I think that's what Delta does for me. Is he's taking the better part of me and bringing it back out into the world, even if I don't ever get to go out there. So.
Yeah, I remember when the dogs first got here. I've told this story a few times that you know, how it's most impacted me, just right from the gate, was, you know, in prison you got walls.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to show your emotion. You want to be tough, or you know, you don't want to show any weakness. And I remember when these little puppies got here, everybody's down on the ground on all fours, rolling around in the grass or in the day room with these little puppies licking on their face. And I immediately thought, I'm never going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I might look like no idiot. You know, and that was just my initial thought. And I remember once I got into the program, it wasn't a week, and I was that guy rolling around. One of those guys rolling around in the grass, on the ground, and now I'm that guy. But I think that's the biggest impact, is it's kind of brought the human out of me. You know, I had him locked up somewhere, and he was shriveled up and starting to die.
I've taught, you know, when I think about the things that I taught Delta, it's things I never even thought were possible. You know, growing up, you know, the dogs that I did have and that I encountered, I took them as just pets, objects. I didn't realize until the program, until I started teaching them what more they're capable of learning. Whether it's learning how to take my socks off, how to tug a rope on a drawer to go get something for me, a medicine bottle. It's an awesome experience because you know that you're part of his learning process. So I remember the first night that Kate and Nicole had showed us how to teach them how to take our socks off. Delta wanted nothing to do with my socks. He smelt my feet, he smelt the socks. He's like, I don't want nothing to do with this, buddy. He just looked at me with his big eyes like, no, it's not gonna happen. So they have this thing, overnight learning, where the dog processes the information that you give him overnight, he sleeps on it, and then the next day, he may or may not decide to do the task that you've shown him. So I waited for a couple days, and then I was laying there on my bed, and I had my feet down by him, he was nibbling on my feet, punching on my sock. So I pulled a sock off on the edge of my heel, and I said, Delta, well, take off my sock, little buddy, pull my sock off. And sure enough, he pulled my sock off. And in that moment, it felt like I was proud daddy with my kid. And so I tried it again with the second sock. I said, hey buddy, can you take my other sock off? And sure enough, he took it off. And I thought, man, here was a dog that wanted nothing to do with it the first night, and here he was. Because, you know, they have this innate need and want to please you, so they want to do for you what makes you happy. And he didn't do it and grab my sock and start playing with it and chewing it up. He simply took it off, and that was it. And he knew that he pleased me, and he helped me out, because right afterwards I leaned down and I got excited with him and petted him and played with him and hugged him, which was pretty cool.
You know, I'm not even a secondary. I'm kind of what's my position?
A floater, but
a floater.
You get the advantage of.
Yeah, I get to handle a lot of dogs. So one of the first dogs I started working with, Parker, worked on his recall.
Yeah.
When it was time to leash up after playtime, and I remember the first time that, because I'd only been working with him for I don't know, probably 4 days, you know, and I got him to do recall, and it was all the way across the yard, and I called him, and he stopped what he was doing and ran straight to me, you know, and it meant a lot to me because, you know, I'd barely even had him that long, and it was like I could tell that we had a good connection.
Yeah.
And he responded to me like that, and I felt the same way. I felt like a proud parent, you know, even though I'm not his main handler. It still felt really good to know that he responded to me that way.
Yeah, I remember the way he did responding too, and it had only been a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's easy to get real attached to these dogs. You know, I mean, each and every one of them.
It's been a roller coaster.
You know, and it's funny because they do learn in their own ways. They all learn things in their own way, and in their own time. You know, I guess for me, where I see myself today and where I want to be in the future, emotionally and physically. Emotionally, I always have this thing in my recovery that I talk about emotional intelligence. I know that I'm going to feel a lot of the emotions that I'm going to feel because of the things I've went through in life, whether it's my childhood or adulthood. I know that we're emotional beings, just like our dogs are. And I guess I just want to be able to understand when I feel certain things and how to deal with them healthy. And with Delta, he gives me that, because I always put myself in his place, like how he sees the world. You know, even when he was 8 weeks old and he came here, it was weird because I looked at him like, man, buddy, you're going to grow up in a prison environment. You know, pretty much just like me. And I knew it was my job to let him experience things around him in a positive way, and to emotionally develop into a healthy dog. For me, I just want to be content with who I am, whether I'm out in the world or spending the rest of my life in prison. Because I tell people all the time, I'm more free now, mentally and emotionally, and probably spiritually than I've ever been in my life. So for me, I just want to be in the future. I just want to be healthy and content with where I am, and know that I can look back and say, I've done a few good things in my life despite the wreckage that I've also caused with my old poor choices and my lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, where I want to be emotionally. You know, I still have some rough edges, you know, to sand down. I'm definitely a lot better than I used to be, and I'm proud of the progress that I've made. But I think contentment. I think that's a good thing to focus on. To be content, to be satisfied and happy with who I am, and I am today. And there's a lot of hope for me in the future. You know, I am going to get out of prison, and just being content. You know, I'm not going to have a lot when I get out initially, and I'm okay with that. You know, I just want to be a productive member of my society. You know,
Yeah.
and be content with just working and just being a normal citizen.
And you know, even when I say that I may never get out of here physically, I still believe that despite where we're at, we can still, you know, give back to our communities. And this is one definite way to give back to the community.
I agree.
You know. If you're interested in learning more about the New Life K9 dogs, please log on to www.newlifek9s.org. And we'd just like to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our insight and our life stories with you and our time here at the program. Thank you.
Thank you.